So Panishi introduces me to a native lady named Gail. And I go to her birthday party, and the first time I ever meet her. And there's this old guy there named Uncle Jake, who's a native guy, Sqaumish. He's an older guy. They all look old, these guys, these old elders. He's looking at me and go, and he spends most of the evening smiling at me. And then at one point he comes up to me and goes, "In my family, 10 generations of shaman. How many in your family?" I said, "Well, you know," he goes, "How many, how many?" I said, "I don't know, 10, 10, 10, 10. He goes, "Hey, I thought 10. I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "What, do you think you accident?" I said, "As a matter of fact, Jake, I think I'm an accident." So I met Jake, and then I met Auntie Donna. So Uncle Jake, Auntie Donna, Auntie Gail, who's my friend. Auntie Donna becomes my friend. And then Auntie Donna starts talking to me. And she looks at me. She visited me at my parents' place, and she turned to me and she said, "Of course, you know you'll have to do a vision quest." Well, I said, "Yeah. Yeah, I know." I have no clue. But in that moment, I have clarity like you wouldn't believe. Yes, I know. I said, "Well, what do I do?" She said, "Well, you go up a river by yourself and you don't eat, you fast. And you bathe every day and you pray to the spirits as you go up." Oh, great. "And when do I come back?" "When they tell you to come back." Who? The spirits. Okay. Now, I'm going to take you back a bit. When I first got married to my first wife, Nina, we went to her uncle's house. Uncle Bunk, they called him. Frank Grundig. And when we went into his house, he had this most incredible picture up on his wall. And I looked at it and was just in awe of this picture. And he gave it to us for a wedding present. And then when my marriage with Nina began to dissolve near the age of 30, and I got into meditating, and when I first meditated with Lloyd, who taught me how to be a deep trance medium, he said, "Go to a lake, go to a body of water." So what I did was, in a meditation, I walked down this path, and I would breathe 3 times. And then I'd walk down this path, across a bit of a gully, and then I'd hang a left up this hill. And up the hill there'd be this rock wall, and I'd run my hands along the rock wall, and then I'd come to a door. And I'd open the door, and there would be a garden. And there'd be somebody there who was my aunt. And I gave her a big hug. And then you go through this garden, and then there's a path, and there'll be somebody there who is Dima. And then to the right, there's down to your lake, and to the left is to a sacred place. So I went to the left, and I went to the sacred place. And this was this little white church that I got married in. And I'd sit down, and there was this fellow named Father David there, who is another person who comes through me to talk. And I would sit with Father David, and I would pray, and I would meditate. Oh, heaven forbid I said prayer. Sorry about that. I don't want to freak you out. But, hey, when you're spiritual, prayer's okay. It just doesn't have to be a religious prayer. And I would sit down, and I would go, "Great Spirit, grandmothers and grandfathers, Father Sky, Mother Earth, bless me. Help me." And then I would go through my family and bless them. Now, I only used an Aboriginal prayer, a First Nations prayer, because it just felt right to me. All the other, "Dear God" or "Jesus," that doesn't feel right to me. I mean, if it feels right to you, cool. You know, if you're praying to Buddha, cool. If you're praying to Allah, cool. You love Jehovah, cool. It's all good, people. So there I am in this little white church, this heritage church. And then this dove, this white dove goes, and that was the beginning of the white bird. And so I went from there, and I went down and out past Dima again, and I went down, and we were supposed to meet this fellow in a boat. And so I pushed this boat out, and there was Mao Ching. "Ah, Mao Ching, ah?" And we're supposed to ask Mao Ching this special question. And so I was an actor. I was wanting to be an actor. And so I asked Mao Ching, I said, "How do I do that?" And then we rowed the boat to the center of this lake, Lake Lovely Water, which I found out later. He rowed it to the center of the lake, and then he started to fish. And he fished like this, and then he fished like that, and then he fished on one leg, and then he fished from the top of his head, and then he fished over to the left, to the right, and the front of the boat, the back of the boat, and then I got crazy, and I said, "Yo, what are you doing? That's not how you fish." And he turned to me, and he looks at me, and he goes, "Many ways to fish, Smarty Pants."